Some games break the rules that they establish to surprise the player. In Baba Is You, it is required that the player breaks the rules. Baba Is You was developed and published by RV Takari and released on March 13, 2019 on PC and Nintendo Switch, and then ported to iOS and Android on June 22, 2021. Baba Is You fits in the puzzle game category of Sokoban. Sokoban, or warehouse keeper, was created in the early 1980s. The goal is to push each crate in the warehouse into the correct position. The premise is simple, but the layouts make it complicated. Sokoban was popular enough to inspire enough block-pushing games that it spawned its own genre named after itself. Just like other game genres, Sokoban has a wide variety of games. Many games in the genre add other mechanics. Void Stranger, you pick up and place tiles down on the floor. Pecker Deck Down, the bunny burrows the block, aka the bunny, move on its own based on your approach and the level layout. In Snakebird, you are the blocks. Baba Is You uses blocks to break and change the rules of the game. 4 rules sit outside of a corridor. A Baba and a yellow flag are separated by 3 rocks. Pressing the arrow keys moves Baba around. If Baba moves into a rock, Baba pushes it. The wall stops Baba from moving into it. Touching the flag clears the level. This is the first level in both the Nordic Game Jam 2017 version and the official release of Baba Is You. Baba Is You, like other Sokoban, is played out on a grid. Everything in the game is one of 2 types of blocks: word blocks and object blocks. This is a Baba word block, and this is a Baba object block. Word blocks have 3 subtypes: noun, property, and operator. Baba, rock, wall, and flag are nouns. You, push, stop, and win are properties. Is an operator. Word blocks can be used together to form rules. Baba Is You uses its level design to teach you both how to form and break rules, and also the syntax for making rules. As you can probably tell, the use of language with word blocks can make gameplay intuitive, but also can make it hard to communicate both in and out of game. That is why new properties are introduced with objects that help intuit the gameplay mechanics of those properties. Baba Is You, the player, controls Baba. Rock is push, other objects can push rock. Wall is stop, nothing else can enter the space that a wall occupies. Flag is win, you win if you share the same space as the flag. This whole idea might either make you excited or dread the idea of playing this game. As the levels progress, new words are introduced. The solution to each level try to teach you or reinforce learning and mechanics. The overworld contains levels and entrances to other areas. Upon completing enough levels in each area, you will gain a flower and unlock other connected areas. Once you have gotten 3 flowers, you can access a way out, which upon completion will roll credits. By the time you get 3 flowers, you probably will not have learned enough about the game to complete a way out, but it will wait for you. My freshman year college roommate wanted to be a physics professor. He managed not being good at physics, and it took him twice as long as anyone to learn concepts in class. When I talked about it with him, he said he enjoyed the challenge and found physics interesting. I expressed my concern that it might make him miserable, but he politely disagreed and continued on. I didn't see him too much that semester except when he arrived home late and went to bed. After coming back the next semester following the break, my roommate seemed much happier. He came home at a decent hour and wasn't studying or doing homework all the time. I asked him about it and he talked to his academic counselor over the break and decided to switch his major. He gave up his dream on being a physics professor to do something else. He could still learn and study physics on his own time without the academic pressure that he had before. There's just something so human about enjoying something despite your lack of ability. Those warriors that fight in the lowest levels in competitive games, the Bronze League heroes. One of the types of games I love but I'm really bad at is puzzle games. Puzzle games have this sort of allure that if you can beat them, you must be smart. Similar to the idea that you have to be smart to be a good detective. Which is probably why there are so many point-and-click detective games. When I get that aha moment and feel so smart, it makes it so easy to want to keep playing.
Here's my answer. Every puzzle has an answer.
But when I think I have something and it just doesn't work, I just keep bashing my head into the wall until it works. Brute forcing isn't fun. Growing up, we had this demo disc that had Intelligence Cube on it with some other games. In the Intelligence Cube, you try to capture all the cubes before they fall to clear each level. Once you fall, you get a point score and your measured IQ is revealed. This really got to me and I really tried hard to beat that demo. I now know that it wasn't an actual measure of my IQ, but just a way to egg me on. I used to compete in Mystery Tournament. Mystery Tournament is a competition where 2 competitors are given a randomly chosen game with a short goal that each competitor has little to no experience with. First to reach the goal wins. The pool of games was created from games and goals that the participants would submit. I always enjoyed watching the event to find new games and see if people liked the games that I submitted. One of the games that really caught my attention was Baba Is You. It was the Nordic Game Jam version. This version of the game only had 13 levels and of course lacks all the polish the released version has. It definitely is enough to show how much promise the concept has. I bought Baba Is You the day after it was released and was super excited to play it. As the game started off, I really enjoyed it, making my way through the puzzles until I reached the second area. Starting in this area, there are puzzles that iterate on the previous level, but something has changed to remove a possible solution. I started getting frustrated and move on to another area. I once again ran into another puzzle that required a better understanding, and I just couldn't get it. I refused to look up any help, so I went to A Way Out and bashed my head against it. I was unable to make any progress, so after only 6 hours of playing the game, I quit. Both my frustration and stubbornness led me to have a bad time and caused me to drop the game. There's this idea that seems pretty common that you have to be smart to be good at puzzle games. It is understandable that you might assume because when you solve a puzzle you feel smart. Knowing when to use a rubber chicken with a pulley in it or how to get a massive combo in Puyo Puyo isn't about actual intelligence. There are skills you acquire from playing similar games or from playing the games themselves. Razbuten has a series where he has his wife, a non-gamer, play a bunch of games. Through the observing of her play and the sharing of his observations, I came to an understanding of something that is easy to miss. Video games build upon standards set by previous games. Mechanics and signaling from older games are used as shorthand for newer games, having yellow paint showing what you can climb on. What is the default button to confirm or to open the main menu? Holding down the jump button to jump higher and how you control your jumps. As you play more games, especially those of the same genre, you gain familiarity with the systems of those games and learn what each game expects from you. Moving right in platformers has been around since Super Mario. Red things will explode if you shoot them. The hitbox of the character is much smaller than the sprite in shoot 'em ups. WASD for movement and the R to reload in first-person shooters. Familiarity with a controller or keyboard layout is something you build over time. So by playing more games, you get better at all these games. If developers assume you have a certain amount of familiarity, they can use it to create unique experiences. All of these standards haven't always been around. Just look at the evolution of controllers. However, with my PlayStation accidentally hitting cancel instead of confirm, cross and circle were used for confirm and cancel, however games would switch which one was which. Escape is common for several functions to open up the main menu, to close the current menu, or to quit out of the game. RPGs have different stat names or different functionality for stats with the same name. Elemental weakness changes in games as well. In Mega Man, Fireman is weak to Iceman's weapon. By Mega Man 6, Lizardman is weak to Flame Man's weapon. As you would expect, all of these can and have caused frustrations to many players. This knowledge and these learned assumptions all coalesce into your experience as a player. Just like any knowledge that is gained, if it is not used, it can degrade, like the foreign language you learned in school. But if you continue to use it, it becomes a part of you, and you don't really think about it. Being good at a certain genre of game usually doesn't transfer over to other genres. If you have someone really good at rhythm games and have them play an action game, their skill from the rhythm game won't necessarily help them be good. The same is true for puzzle games. If you don't play them often, it's hard to be good at them. When you get stuck in puzzle games, sometimes you try to brute force, but usually the only solution is to sit and think. The more you play a certain type of game, the better you become at that type of game. This seems like an obvious statement, but can easily be overlooked. If you don't play puzzle games, you're naturally going to be bad at them. It isn't because you're stupid. If someone played Super Mario Bros. For the first time and game overed on 1-1, you wouldn't call them uncoordinated, would you? Puzzle games are just like any other game. The more you play them, the better you get at them. Unlike with other game genres, getting better at puzzle games isn't about controlling your character better, but knowing how to approach problems and understanding mechanics quicker. Each player has different experiences, presumed assumptions, and preferences about games. These differences change how each player perceives and plays games. Even the challenges faced will change depending on the player. Take my mom, for example. When she plays Breath of the Wild or Pikmin 4, even in great moments of danger, she stops to look down at the controller to make sure she pushes the right buttons. I can't remember the last time I've ever looked down at the controller while playing. The differences in player experiences can also make it hard to judge the difficulty of games. What might seem like a pretty straightforward problem to one player can be an insurmountable mountain to another. This makes it difficult to suggest specific puzzle games to someone else or even find one that's in the right difficulty range for you. There are some games that are infamously hard. One of my friends said he'd only recommend Void Stranger to masochists. Difficulty settings in games have been around for a long time, but it's always hard to judge what is the right choice for you. I remember suggesting easy difficulty in Persona 4 for one of my friends because I knew normal would frustrate him too much. But easy was way too easy for him, so he stopped playing because getting back to where he was on normal was too much of a time investment. Some newer games try to remedy this by letting you adjust difficulty mid-playthrough. I've tried to use this feature a few times and immediately switched back because it became too easy. Some games will ask on the game over screen if you want to reduce the difficulty. When I see this, I feel patronized and get mad at the game for even suggesting this to me. I do remember reducing the difficulty for the last few missions of Fire Emblem Fates and the victories feeling hollow. Yes, I saw the credits roll, but normal was such a drop from hard that I felt no real challenge. Difficulty in most games is influenced by the different systems in the games, such as HP, damage values, movement mechanics, and enemy AI. In puzzle games, any real changes to its systems would need new puzzles. But there is a better way to change difficulty in puzzle games, and that's with hints. Having the proper hint system can make all the difference. It's not an easy thing to do because the hint might be something you might already know, or the hint is just the answer. One of my friends' playthrough of La Mulana, he had a mutual friend provide hints for him. Hints range from being as cryptic as the clues the game gave itself, to an artistic rendering of the solution, to just a point-blank telling him where to go. This isn't something I'd ever expect a game to do on its own, but there are many clever solutions that developers have come up with. A little to the left is a game where you are given a few items and attempt to find a pattern and organize these items to fit that pattern. The hint system is a notebook with a solution on it, but the solution is covered up. You can choose which part of the solution to reveal, if any. When knowledge is your progression in games, it's even harder to give good hints. In a game like Outer Wilds where knowledge makes all the difference, you can beat it under 9 minutes if you know what you're doing. A knowledge-giving hint can be like skipping a level on a platformer. There are games that let you skip levels, but that's not always desirable. In Baba Is You, many of the levels are there to teach you a certain interaction in the mechanics of the game. Giving a good hint for puzzle game nudges you in the right direction, but doesn't give you the solution. Sometimes someone confirming you're doing something wrong can send you in the right direction. I was watching PlayFriend's first episode of their playthrough of Baba Is You. They had found an online resource that gave good hints. Baba Is Hint. Baba Is Hint was made by Key of W. It starts with a little intro with some general advice on how to read the guide. You can navigate to each level with a map, and each level has a little intro. Then there are hints you can reveal by highlighting them by selecting them. Without this guide, this review would have been much shorter. With Baba Is Hint now at my disposal and advice from Jake the dog,
sucking at something is the first step towards being sorta good at something.
I was ready to revisit Baba Is You. My journey to become a better puzzler. The first set of 8 levels on the overworld were a good reintroduction to the mechanics of the game. Each property was generally used with an object that made it easier to intuit what the property did. Baba Is You, I could move around Baba. Wall is stuck, meaning I couldn't move through a wall. Rock is push, allowed me to push the rock. Flag is wind, being on the same tile as wind completed the current level. Water is sink, water overlapping with another object destroys the water and the other object. Skull is defeat, a skull destroys me if I touch it. Each puzzle required the making and breaking of rules to complete them. Some puzzles inverted the expectations by starting as a wall and being trapped by flags. Another had me turn all of the lava into Baba. The game tried to impress upon me that Baba isn't always you and flag doesn't always need to be win. This, however, didn't stick with me and made several levels later much more difficult than they needed to be. Icy Waters, the first level of the next world, introduced AND. The operator AND adds an additional rule to the sentence it is used in. Baba Is You and Sink causes Baba to be both you and Sink. Whatever object I intersected with would sink and destroy us both. The narrow hallway made it so I could only add or remove words at the end of the sentence or add words to the beginning. This limited the moves I could make and helped streamline finding the solution. The solution was to move AND to the front to make Wall and Baba Is You, then sacrificing parts of me to sink jellyfish and reach the flag. The next level turns helped reinforce the importance of considering each step as the solution. It can be easy to push text against the wall you can't get away from. Infection introduced Kiki, move, love, and the wait button. Kiki is just a cute bipedal red blob who moved whenever I moved or when I waited. None of the Kikis did much other than move around at the start. Objects with the move property will move in the direction they are facing until they hit something that stops them, then turn 180 degrees and continue moving. I position Kiki to push love and line myself up to intercept the love. Hilliard taught me that objects that aren't me aren't destroyed when they intersect with defeat. So I could bypass defeat by pushing another object through, then assuming control. Submerged Ruin is one of the smallest levels. It has a claustrophobic feel to it and moving blocks around due to all the walls. There's a rock that makes it very easy to unintentionally make crab as defeat and flag as win. This makes it so you can't reach the flag because the crabs guard the entrance. It also seems impossible to get rock as push out of the prison to be able to use it with the other word blocks without creating crab as defeat. I spent a bunch of time to push the rock onto the flag like I did with the pillar in the previous level. But doing so would leave the rock word block on the bottom, so I was unable to create rock as you. It wasn't until I realized I was removing the push property from the rock to get the word blocks out that I realized the solution. After breaking up rock as push, I could stand on top of the rock and push all the word blocks out. I formed rock as baba, then lined up the babas and created flag as win as one of the babas touched the flag. Sunken Temple iterated on Submerged Ruin, and it forced me to do what I assumed was required before, to create crab as defeat in the initial steps. With only one crab guarding the way, my other solution of pushing the rock through and becoming rock worked. This did require knowledge that word blocks could be used to create a rule both horizontally and vertically at the same time. Lock introduced key is open and door is shut. Pushing an open block into a shut block destroys both blocks. I used a key to open a door, then made a rock open a door. Once again, the game was trying to emphasize the properties what matters and not the object itself. Anything could open anything, not just a key. Changeless introduced a hierarchy to the rules. Rock is rock means rock's immutable. Forming rock is flag only caused the rule to be crossed out. I need to first undo rock is rock to get my flag back so I could win. With that, Lake was completed. I was really excited when I saw Area Complete pop up. I was progressing much faster than I thought I would. I was actually having fun puzzling. At first glance, Float was the same as the very first level. But when I stepped onto the flag, I didn't win. Float is a property that prevents interaction with most other properties. Win and stop both didn't work, but push did. I was unable to break up Baba as float, so I became a wall and won. The properties hot and melt were introduced in warm water. Unlike other properties like sink or open and shut that cause both objects that touch to be destroyed, only the object that is melt is destroyed when it touches something hot. The solution was to have obstacles float over Baba's head. Catch the Thief frustrated me at first. A robot would break up Baba as you if I didn't do anything. I tried running into the robot, but I kept moving. I knew that Robot is move was too far away and I couldn't break it up in time. I had to push Baba is you down out of the robot's path. Then after getting the robot in place, I broke Robot is move to make Robot is you. Controlling both Baba and Robot was tricky, but after losing once or twice, I got one out and made Baba is win. As I saw a tiny pawn appear on screen, a wave of dread came over me. This was the level that I couldn't solve on my first playthrough. I was wrong, it was actually the next level, but they do look similar. After not even a minute in, I decided it was time to use Baba's hint for the first time. I spent several minutes moving things around to open water, but all of them would destroy me. I turned the flag into a key and pushed out win. I started to feel bitter until I saw a tiny aisle. It had the same setup, but there was only an extra block of water. I tried not to panic. With the hint about how many tiles need to be removed, I realized I could use win while it's still surrounded by water, but I would need to use the singular is with the and to make something win. In Research Facility were two corridors. The upper was guarded by Kiki, who was defeat. I couldn't send Bolt through the corridors without losing it unless I broke Skull is Hot first. The lower one had a defeat text block, and pushing it would replace Skull is Hot with Skull is defeat. This, however, would leave me with only losing moves. But what if Bolt moved with me and hit the skull as I broke Skull is Hot? Then it could break Skull's defeat and I could get win. I tried a few really bad ideas before I got the proper positioning and timing down. In Wire's connection, a bog river of defeat separated me from being able to reach the text blocks on the right. There was no way to break Bog's defeat, so I needed to maneuver the cogs and robot to push the text blocks into the right places. Dim Signal iterated on this puzzle. It required moving 3 text blocks into place, but with only 2 movers. I needed either the robot or cog to put 2 blocks into place. I first had the cog push and into place, then I used the now unneeded blocks as a cushion to make the robot turn around after placing the second and. Prison seemed impossible at first. Win was stuck outside the wall, and wall is stopped was pushed up against the wall. It truly seemed like there was no way out of this prison. Luckily, there are only a few combination of rules I could make. I tried placing Kiki behind the wall and having them overlap, but I left Kiki as push active so nothing could be pushed into Kiki's space. I needed to break up Kiki as push, then push the wall into Kiki, make Kiki as you, and move down to break the wall as stop. Dungeon required the same trick, but required controlling Baba and Kiki at the same time. This meant getting Kiki into the right spot and breaking Kiki as you simultaneously. The Evaporating River had a roll of 3 defeat skulls that blocked the creation of Flag as Win. I jumped to the conclusion that I needed 4 blocks to push in a row so I could push Flag into place. This is something that happened to me a lot. I misread the obstacles that prevent certain solutions as the path to the solutions, when the actual solution was to sink one of the skulls. With that done, Island was complete. I walked into the grass and exploded. Fragility introduced the new property Weak. If a weak object overlaps with another object, it will be destroyed. I made rocks and skulls weak to make a path to the flag. Baba ran straight into the water and turned into a rock. Tunnel vision introduced the new operator Has. When an object is destroyed, it will place the object that it has in the space it died in. The flag was surrounded by water. I made rock has rock and tunneled through the water. A perilous gang of skulls blocked my way to win. I only had 2 ghosts I could push and move. My first instinct was to have the ghost bring wind to me. I didn't have a way for the ghost to switch from moving horizontally to vertically. It took a bit to remember that defeat only works when I share a space with it, and push prevents that. I got the ghost in place to make skull as push. My timing was off at first, but I was able to get the win. A double moat and a door blocked the way to the flag. I needed a Kiki to open the door, but that required positioning Kiki first. Kiki opened the door and dropped a Baba. I tried forming rules while controlling both of the Babas. This required a lot of planning and undoing of my own mistakes. My lack of foresight where I created the rules caused myself a lot of grief. The second Baba dropped a Kiki as it drowned in the second moat. I moved Kiki, then became Kiki for the win. Further fields was divided by a line of grass. My previously used strategy of moving another object across defeat tiles and becoming them didn't work. The first reason for this was because I could only become Baba, which was defeat. The second reason was the rule Baba is Baba was in place, so I couldn't make Baba as Kiki. In all of the levels before further fields, if I didn't control anything, I need to undo my last move or restart the level. In further fields, losing then gaining control of Kiki is part of the solution. The solution required me to break Kiki as you to make Kiki as push. When the Babas were lined up properly, they pushed Kiki across the grass, and once arriving on the other side, reformed Kiki as you, allowing me to win. With that, the ruins were completed, and I wanted to check out what was behind the gate that opened up on the overworld map. It was a way out, the finale of the game. I opened the level and immediately thought to myself, yep, not ready for that, and moved on to the Forest of Fall. Hop introduced the new property Telly. Any object that enters or remains on the teleporter will teleport. Teleporting across the first line of water was easy enough. My first idea to teleport the flag out of its prison ended in failure. Teleporting the water out of the way, then turning off the teleporter let me get to the flag. Jump was the same solution but applied to 2 bodies of water. The pull property was introduced in Grand Stream. When anything next to a pull object moves away from it, the object will move in the same direction. I tried to take the key through the bottom portion, which is impossible with pull. After a bit of trial and error, I realized I needed to have Kiki pull the key across the water. I then opened the crate and won. Next 2 levels taught me that anything can pull a pull object, including one that I controlled. Not there introduced the operator Not. Putting Not in front of a property negates other rules. Putting it in front of a noun makes the rule apply to everything except that object. Making Not Baba is you will make everything except Baba be you. Fence is not stop negates fence is stop, and allowed me to win. So far, all the levels had been either numbered levels or extra levels. Forest of Fall introduced the first letter levels. These levels taught important mechanics I needed to know before doing the later, harder puzzles. These were the first hint towards what the endgame of Baba Is You would be like. Literacy appeared to be pretty simple at first. I was trapped inside a prison and I could make text as you to get outside of the walls to touch the flag. As I pushed the rock to get text, the rock went into the wall. Oh, the walls are defeat, not stop. I brought the text down and became text, but I wasn't able to reach the flag without destroying text as you. I was left with an important question that needed answering. If I create wall as text, would the walls become text first, or do I lose first? As I formed wall as text, I didn't lose, so I went and touched the flag. Broken Playground presented what seemed to be an impossible problem. I needed to teleport text to form a win rule, but text was floating, so it was unable to be teleported. A thought popped into my mind. What if I formed flag as text? And the flag turned into a flag text. This was both exciting and worrisome. I could get the flag teleported over and form flag as win, but how do I get a flag where I can touch it? Now thinking back to the solution I came up with is probably the harder solution. I made the box a flag and became the flag to get the flag teleported across. I then turned back into Kiki and made flags into text. I then created flag as win and set up the text for my next moves. I needed to become text and turn Kiki into a flag and then become that flag. Fetching is one of my favorite puzzles. All the rules I made in it felt final because I was pushing text up against the wall. I got to literally break that expectation by using the weak property to destroy that text and form a new rule. Scenic Pawn and its extra level Deep Pawn both share a solution which has a few mechanics in it that's very important to know. First is that if an object has text, the text will be of that object. If Baba has text, then if Baba is destroyed, a Baba text block will appear. Second is ending your turn on defeat destroys you, not starting your turn there. So if Baba has Baba and Baba is destroyed, the second Baba can move before it is destroyed. With Forest of Fall completed, I moved on to Deep Forest. Renovating introduced the shift property. Any object on a shifting object will attempt to move in the direction the shifting object is facing. Like I had expected from a conveyor belt, walking along a shift object moved me 2 tiles instead of 1. Now I used the belts to move the wall out of the way. Canyon introduced a property. It causes an object to always be facing up. Right, left, and down are also properties that function the same as up, but they are introduced in other levels. This was very helpful to work with shift because when I pushed an object, it faced the direction I pushed it in. So if I wanted to put a belt into a corner, the belt could only shift further into that corner. But with up, I could shift the ghost out of the corner so it could melt some flowers for me. Concrete Goals is a corridor of belts leading to a flag. Flag, however, is stop, so I couldn't walk onto the flag nor shift myself onto the flag. Baba wasn't stop or push, so I shifted the flag onto me to win. Victory in the Open was a cute puzzle where you remote control Kiki. The one setback was the remote only had up and right, so I needed Kiki to bounce off a wall to turn down or left. Lovely House taught me more of the power of the AND operator. It allowed me to turn one rock into both a key and Baba, allowing me to open a door and clear a path through the moat to the flag. In Lock the Door, I made a perpetual motion machine. Nearly is the first level of the Deep Forest letter levels. Swap is a property that swaps places with other objects that it moves onto or onto. I tried to touch the flag and I just swapped places with it, so I needed to break Baba's swap and then touch the flag. Other letter levels taught me more of the intricacies of the swap property to all build up to installation. Baba was trapped inside the walls that would melt him. Kiki's push is stuck against the wall with up below it. The word skull is sitting next to Kiki. Skull would move and swap once I changed Kiki into one. So the question was, where did Kiki need to be to free me? I tried a bunch of different positions along the top. All of them didn't work because the Kiki on the far right would melt swap. As I was trying to find a position that might work along the bottom, I realized I could be on the same space as the skull, and when the skull swapped with the wall, it would be on top of me and I could just walk out of it. I got everything lined up and formed Kiki's skull as I stepped onto Kiki, and I was free. With Deep Forest complete, I learned all the mechanics I needed to know to complete a way out. A way out appeared quite daunting at first glance. There was a lot of space that wasn't used in the puzzle at all, or just held the rules I couldn't get to. Everything in the puzzle was to make the puzzle in the top right possible. I needed to form Rock is Push. There's no way to get the rock out of there, so I needed to bring is push to it. The first obstacle was whenever I passed over any of the ice, it would turn into a wall. This made it so I couldn't insert is and push from the bottom. I could only insert one of them. The next obstacle was I needed to use the belts to shift the push block down. But activating belt is shift would lock me in there. So I put Kiki into position and activated Kiki's move once everything was set up. Once that was all done, I created Rock is Push and burned my last ice to escape. I created Flag is Win and the level ended. No credits. I went back to see what I missed. There is a new property block I didn't use. End. I repeated the same steps from earlier and created Flag is End and got the credits. I had done it. I had finished Baba is You. Those of you who are familiar with Baba is You will know there is still more than half of the game left for me to talk about. Even just looking at the beginning map, you can see there are still 5 areas marked. I think this is a good place to end my recounting of my playthrough since I still haven't really beat the game as the achievement describes it. but I got to a point where I stopped having fun and began looking up solutions. And that is the opposite of what I enjoy in puzzle games, so I stopped. I may come back later and play some more, but for now, I'm content. This also relates to another question I've been asking myself: how much of each game should I play? Especially in a large game with many side quests, should I complete all side quests because there might be a special side quest that makes me love the game? Or would doing them all make me start to dislike the game? Should I do the post-game content too? With all that in mind, my current goal is to roll credits on each game. Anything more than that is optional. Overall, I really enjoyed my time with Baba Is You. Exploring all the different properties and their interactions was really fun. The creativity of the puzzles and how each puzzle built so well upon each other made for an enjoyable experience. One of the coolest things was one of the properties changing it from just a puzzle game to a puzzle platformer. The thing that makes Baba Is You special is also the part that makes it ours to talk about, and that's the word blocks. I struggled to try and write something that made sense to even those who've never played Baba Is You, and I hope I at least partially got there. Recently, after finishing Block Koala from UFO 50, I realized I had gained something from Baba Is You. That is confidence in myself being a puzzler. I'm sorry I never would have finished Block Koala if I didn't give Baba Is You a second chance. Baba Is You helped me learn how to learn. Playing Baba Is You led me to have a better time playing other games. I don't know if there's a better recommendation that I can give than that. He went from a game that I thought was so interesting to never wanting to touch again, to a game that became a good experience on its own, and also improved my experience with other games. Every game deserves a second chance.